big welcome to all of you who have joined us live here today for our AWA Agora show, our third episode in our fourth season. I'm your host, Abhay Wadhwa, founder and design principal of AWA Lighting Designers. For those of you that are new to the show, AWA Agora is an online talk show with the intent of facilitating thought leadership through discussions and conversations with pioneers and leaders in the field of design, research, technology, sound, light, and the art world. Today, I'm thrilled to host Rasmus Gaupp-Berghausen. We had him on our show for our first episode of this season, and the feedback that we received for his talk was so tremendous that we invited him here for a sequel, part two of our conversation, because there was so much ground that we had to still cover. And we are thrilled to have him here for another hour of his time. And we, of course, focus on everything that we can do to impact a dialogue on the state of our zeitgeist. So I'm just thrilled that we have reached a fourth season, and we are continuing to attract some wonderful guests. And I'm really, really thankful. Myself and my team are very thankful for all the love that you share with us. So welcome to Rasmus. Thanks for coming back on the show, Rasmus. It's really good to have you back.
Thank you. Hello. Nice.
Hi. How's Austria?
The sun was just shining. It was nice this afternoon. That's nice.
Everything we haven't had the sun here in 3 days, and today was the first day that in New York City, the sun came back out. So, so it's really wonderful to have you back, Rasmus.
Thank you.
We really enjoyed our conversation, and I'm really looking forward to picking up where we left off.
Yeah, where did we leave off?
we were doing a little. Demonstration with your son on how your technology works and soul sound, but maybe a good idea to just jump into it for a few minutes as a recap of our first episode, so that people who are jumping in on this episode can go back and watch it on YouTube where we have it already up.
My main work I'm doing now since 15 years maybe, it's a translation of the heart frequency to sound and light. This is I called it Sound of Soul, and this is now already in 27 countries, people working with it, and it's based on the heart rate variability, and this is where I'm very busy these days. I've just had 2 weeks ago, I have had 23 doctors and therapists training with the heart rate variability. So this is my main work today. But all around the heart rate variability, I think it's related to many things. Not only that it's a diagnostic tool, but it's actually for me that, how to say, the variability of our heart is somehow the most beautiful, how to say, description of the liveliness itself inside us, because nothing is as variable as the heartbeat from the frequencies. And as you know, my background before, I worked many years with Dr. Emoto, made the water crystal. The Emoto is very famous, or was very famous. He died 2000. He's still famous, but he's not alive anymore. He died 2014. He wrote the book Messages from Water, published in almost 50 languages. And I was very fortunate to travel with Emoto many years around the world, got stuck in Russia for several years. And then later I started to develop this technology which translates the heart rate variability into sound and light. I'm still conducting, of course, the laboratory of Emoto. I still do this water testing, but I get more and more busy with the Sound of Soul. This is that's like how we calculate the light. You said to me that maybe we should go into a little deeper with that again to explain, because it was maybe too fast. So we can do this, of course. Yes, and to talk maybe a little bit more about resonance and coherence and entrainment and what this principle is all about. Maybe also what is important, maybe is this all this electromagnetic stress we face today, and which is also a pulsed wave, and which actually decreases the variability of our heart, which I have tested now over a year. Many people. I made a study, and it's very interesting to see how, if we expose to EM waves, that our body goes into a sympathetic stress mode, and this is very interesting to see. So this is the field I'm working nowadays, conducting many studies, developing now with different companies also protection. Now I have a big study. We try to develop clothes. It's already on the market, several, but textiles and clothes which have a good impact on our body, and at the same time have a protectional function of the heart rate variability. So that's what I'm doing at the very moment.
Those of us who are not as familiar with heart rate variability, could you just explain what is so important about heart rate variability, like an HRV value, which is more, etc. And what's in it for me in that? Okay, so do I grow taller? Do I show more love? What happens when I have good heart rate variability?
The heart rate variability is the ability of the body to respond from internal and external stress. I always compare it with with a plant. So the more flexible a plant is, the better it can respond to a storm or to bad conditions. And when the conditions are over, it can somehow thrive again and grow again. And the same is with the heart rate variability. The variability that we measure from one heartbeat to the next, the time distance. And this is a knowledge which is not new. It's already almost 2000 years old. Chinese medicine, it's known. And so it's not something new in our Western society. It entered more or less 200 years ago. The first doctors were writing about this. And since the 60s, it's used in the hospitals already during childbirth. And nowadays, it's very popular in top sports and also for a lot of mental problems like burnout or depression or sleeping disorder or many different things. But the variability itself is a tool which is actually based on the AKG, if it's a serious heart rate variability. So we take the AKG signal and we detect very accurate the variability of the heartbeat. So the layman maybe thinks that the heartbeat is always the same, maybe gets a little faster if we do a little bit more activities, and slows down, but it's not directly related or linked to the speed of the pulse, because you can have a fast pulse like a baby and still have a good variability, and you can have a very slow heartbeat, like let's say a very old person, let's say maybe somebody with heart insufficiency, and you have no heart variability at all. So the variability itself describes that it changes from beat to beat. And nowadays, therapists all around the world more and more get aware of this. The problem is in medicine, if you study medicine, most doctors I know who I asked, they said they have never heard a single hour about heart rate variability during their studies. So this is maybe why I have to teach so many doctors also now, because they see how important it is. And because one doctor said in all his studies, he had only 1 hour about health and all the rest was about disease. And heart rate variability is actually more related to health, you can say, because you can really see how your ability is to adapt to stress, how fast you can regenerate from stressful situations. And even though today there are more than, I just looked, last week was, 53,000 studies already on the market, 53,000 related to heart rate variability. So it is pretty known. And well, I stumbled over it maybe 15 years ago, and I saw the relationship first related to Emoto's work, because I saw Emoto, many people claim Emoto is not a scientist because he cannot make two crystals which are the same. Of course, it's impossible. We cannot talk about this in detail. But the same is with the heart. We don't have two heartbeats which are the same. And I think this is actually the beauty in nature, that there are not two leaves on a tree which are the same. We have not two heartbeats which are the same. We have not two children who are the same. And that's the heart rate variability. And the heart rate variability, if we go into detail, I examined 23 different parameters of heart rate variability. And you can, if you work with this very accurate, you can really see a lot of the health condition of the person. And yeah, and the beauty is you can combine it with anything. You can test internal, external influences, and see, because for me, the heart itself is like the best measurement tool we have, because the heart is like a reacting organ, and we can very nice see how it works. So that's what we do. And I told you that last week I connected for the first time a horse. Maybe I should explain already now if you want it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but just very quickly though, before we go horsing around. So the one question that came up again and again, as people kept sending us their feedback from your last talk is, okay, I get it, that you measure it, we are able to, use our heart as an indicator of good health and heart rate variability. But Rasmus, tell me, how do I get better heart rate variability? Because that's the key, right? Heart rate variability, you want more heart rate variability, not less.
There are many, many, many influences. Well, the main assumption is, of course, the older you get, the worse the variability. But the interesting thing is that you can be 90 years. I just had a lady 2 days ago from Australia. She had a heart rate variability, 70-year-old lady. She had a variability it's a lady I was training, a therapist in Australia working with my system. And we looked through the heart rate variability, and it was the heart of a 25 to 30-year-old lady, but she was 70. So I know nothing about this lady. I just saw her data, and I said, well, this lady must have many talents. First of all, she works a lot of physical, because you have to use your body. Nowadays, we just sit in front of the computer and eat bad food. And so, and she has also very good ability. If people can go to bed without digesting all the things they have, they have been confronted during daytime. So our dreaming, Krishnamurti said beautiful, that if you're very aware during daytime, you don't dream. If you're unaware, you have to digest this again and again. And I think this is, because the dreaming is of course very nice and very philosophical and very, let's say, romantic and many things. And I think dream research is very interesting. But if you're 100% present at daytime, you hardly dream. And the thing is, when we dream or when we think, the thinking process itself is a sympathetic activity. And when we think and worry and all the focus during lifetime, we train our heart more and more to a low variability. So this lady in Australia, she, even though I don't know anything about her, she must have good lifestyle. She must have really good sleep at night. She must be able to regenerate very, very good. So the main influencing factors. So the age, I think, is not so important, because we think normally that till 25, our life goes up and then it goes more or less downwards again. But the thing is with the heart, if you give the heart the possibility to relax again, or especially the mind, because the mind has some influence on the heart, then the heart amazingly can open again and get higher variability. So influencing factor is absolutely the lifestyle, short carbohydrates, lack of water, bad nutrition. We see the electromagnetic stress we are exposed today is very much, too little sleep is very, very, has a big impact. There are many influences. And one of the main thing for me is the breathing. Because most people nowadays breathe wrong, because we are so stressed, we breathe with our mouth. And when we breathe with our mouth, we breathe superficially to the upper chest. And it's called the respiratory sinus arrhythmia. So if you breathe in a lot, blood goes into the lung, and the pulse has to become faster. And when you breathe out, the pulse gets slower again. But if you breathe very superficial all day long, the interaction between heartbeat and breathing cycle gets more and more ignored. And I can see out of a heart rate variability, I can see in 30 seconds if this is a good breather or not. So there's many things. And if people start to breathe deep, profound, different pranayama exercises or any different wonderful exercises. So I would say the nutrition, the sleeping, the mind, and the breathing are the main influences on the heart rate variability. Yeah.
Nutrition, mind, breathing, and
Breathing, the sleeping, that you have enough sleep, that's very important. I think these are the main, and of course also there are many, and of course the body workout, that you are active. So this is because the moment you are active, you breathe good normally. So these are the main, I would say, the main factors before age and before, I don't know, organic food, which is great, of course, too. But
sure.
yes,
I get it. Yeah. So connected to this, I'm aware that you practice the system that Wim Hof speaks about, right? Does that help your HRV values substantially?
absolutely. This is lifesaver. So use it or lose it. So we had people with amazing disease, a really heavy diagnosis from prostate cancer and all kinds of things. And I give lectures about this, and we make a breathing seminar, and we go swimming in winter in the lake or in the river. And it's amazing how people cure themselves again. This is just, it's I know a guy, he had prostate cancer, and after 6 months, his values were back to a normal, healthy guy. And the doctor said, this is not possible. And I said, well, I don't know, but his body tries to cure him 24/7. But if he not starts to push the body, of course, the important is to push the body, but also give the body the possibility to relax again. So if he would only train and breathe and cold exposure and hardly sleep, then it would maybe make no sense. But the whole mitochondria starts again. The adrenaline, if you do this breathing and you go into the cold, the adrenaline gets really high again. You train adrenaline, which you need to cure diseases. Nowadays, the problem is that most people have hardly any adrenaline. They are always in a slight higher level of adrenaline, but if they need it, they don't have it. And so
so there are no reserves because you're always on a high level of adrenaline.
Somehow, exactly. And so yes, and regarding to the heart rate variability, this is beautiful that as long the heart is beating, you can do so much and increase the variability with many different things.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So everybody listening to heart rate variability, go Google this. This is your retirement, how to say, money related to health. That's the heart rate variability. We have a German expression there. It's a good
Sounds good. So tell us about your recent experiences horsing around.
Go a little bit in detail. Last time I talked about resonance, which is for me the most important phenomena in this universe. That's resonance, and it sounds so esoteric or so easy, and so how to say, let's say so easy, whatever. Not, but it's not. It's very profound because a vibration always tries to communicate with another vibration. So this is this is the main principle of life, and this is why, for example, when a child is conceived and the fertilized egg starts to divide itself, the vibration from outside is always unique, and you always get a unique child, and you always get a unique leaf on a tree, and you get a unique water crystal. That's based on this resonance phenomena of vibrations, because otherwise the same parents would be supposed to get the same kids 24/7 all the time. So resonance said, if you have a tuning fork, you hit it, the other tuning fork vibrates. That's super simple. Every child can understand this. Octavation of vibration, this is the next, I think, most profound principle of this universe, because if you're very simple explained, if you have a tuning fork and you hit it, and the same tuning fork, if it's just 1 octave higher, if the pitch is 1 octave higher, it also vibrates. So, and the mathematical symbol for infinity is this laying 8. So if we have a string and I've divided by 2 and I let half of the string vibrate, I have exactly the octave, do and do from the piano. And then the next do, and then the next do. And this is a very interesting, you can continue in infinity with this. And if we see, for example, our tiny little muscle cells, they have the same frequency range like the Schumann frequency of this planet. And if I make a fist and I shake because I'm angry or I'm freezing, I shake with 8 till 12 hertz, 14 hertz. That's the same like Schumann, the first level of Schumann frequency. So Mother Earth is vibrating and our muscle cell is vibrating. And now people like Gerald Pollack or Vladimir Voikov, they found out that you change the pH, the acidity and the alkalinity of the body based on external vibration. And this is mind-blowing. This should be the most important Nobel Prize ever, because this explains where we get the energy from. Because we don't get the energy only from digesting carbohydrates and fats and all kinds of organic matter. Our heart actually, if we would just get the energy from our food, our heart would not get enough energy to pump 5,000 liters a day blood through that body. So the calculation we learn in school is wrong. So, but the interesting thing is, if the water starts to vibrate, they get coherent and they change the pH. And everybody who hears about this, Google Vladimir Voikov and Gerald Pollack. Gerald Pollack from the United States, wonderful man from Washington, a professor, showed this. So the principle from Sound of Soul is exactly the same again. So I take the heart frequency from 0 to 0.4 hertz. It's like a tuning fork. And then I double, I make the octaves until I reach the audio range. And then I double further until I reach the electromagnetic field of the light. Because the information stays the same. I always explain, we maybe said last time already, if you see a very tiny letter in your book and you see the letter huge painted on the wall, you don't read more A, B, or C just because the letter is big. So the information stays the same. And the word information, as it says, it creates a form. I translate the heart frequency into light and sound, and you can hear here a sample. There are two gentlemen. One was a pilot of the army of Great Britain, really a fighter guy, and this is a very soft, sensitive gentleman from Holland. Both connected the hearts. Both this completely same setting, so I didn't change anything except the person. And you can literally hear how different they play. Their heart is playing the sound we hear now. So this is Matt. And that's Mark. And well, I met them in Japan and I was working with Emoto this time. That's why we used the shakuhachi. They can play any instrument, of course, just if you wonder why they play the shakuhachi there. And I love this shakuhachi, so very nice instrument. Okay, so let's go further. So if there is resonance, same tuning forks or octaves higher, then there is the next, phenomena. So first is that they resonate, and the next actually is the synchronization. Synchronization is, synchronicity doesn't exist in the universe. It's actually the wrong word, because synchronicity would imply it's the same. There is not the same. If you dance with a wonderful lady, you get coherent, but you actually don't get synchron because you don't get the same, but you react on her and she reacts on you. And that's called actually spontaneous synchronization. And Huygens was a Dutch guy several hundred years ago. He was the first gentleman who could explain this mathematically. And this was a phenomena many scientists have argued about. There is the pendulum watches. Many people have seen, if pendulum watches are in the same area, in the same room, that they start to interact. So there's a kind of, a resonance, and they get coherent actually. And coherent means if you move to a vibration you're exposed to. Yes. This is from a Japanese laboratory. I don't know, there are maybe 100 metronomes. And what I explained before with the water was that what Pollack and Wyckoff shows, that the water molecule, we know in water chemistry, based on the dipole character, always tries to connect with another water molecule. And this is oscillating very, very fast, billion times per second. But if a vibration comes from outside, it just starts to react like these metronomes. They start to get coherent, but only the water molecules which are close to the surface. So you could imagine, if you compare it with the metronomes, if the whole room is full of metronomes and they're all just the metronomes which have such a third component, which would be the floor or the wall or the membrane of the cell, the water molecule, they can get coherent. And if they get coherent, they get, how to say, a negative charge, and suddenly you get electricity. And that's the amazing thing. So you can change the charge in the body cell from external vibration. And the question is, of course, we don't know yet in science, but the question is if it must be a vivid vibration, or if like a pulsed vibration could also change the pH in a positive term. This we don't know yet. But because when we see the sunlight, the infrared of the sunlight, it literally gives us energy. Our body pH changes. So that's the coherence. This is also a sample. This is from Graz University, very beautiful. You put a very high charge, and you can see if you change the charge of the water, this is distilled water, and if there's a very high charge, the viscosity of the water changes. So the whole chemistry and the whole physics properties of the water changes. These are 2 bottles of water, just a glass of water, just how to say, a little disc apart from each other, and the water starts to connect. So the interesting thing is, if water gets coherent, we can generate electricity, or in this case, it was vice versa. High charge was put inside, and the viscosity of the water has changed. So we see like, how can a jellyfish swim through the ocean? This is a beautiful video from the film Deep Blue. This is a jellyfish living 4,000 meters below surface in the ocean. Where does it get the whole electricity from? So it is a phenomena. This is not free energy, but it is available energy, free for everyone. And this is a translation. And this is based on this resonance and coherence factor, and the water is the molecule which can react on this. And this is so, because we talked about this yesterday. So for me, it's very important is to understand that this resonance phenomena, this coherence, this entrainment factor, and that we change the pH, also our human body. If we laugh and dance and all kinds, we change the pH of our body. And what I do today with my work is, if 2 vibrations react, yes, if 2 tuning forks react, also the human heart reacts. So what connects people is the heart, and it's not the mind. The heart has a 2,000 times stronger electromagnetic field than the brain. And you know, in the United States, there's beautiful work of the Heart Math Institute, and there are different institutes talking about this heart coherence, and we can literally hear it. And so when we translate the how to say, the heart rate variability into sound, and then we divide it, we can divide your heart frequency in different subparts, so you can play several instruments. And then I go even further, and then I say, I take from your heart certain frequency ranges, and then from your friend certain frequency range. Then literally this 2-person starts to get in a very strong field of coherence. And that's what I'm doing. And this is what I did last week with a horse for the first time. I'll show in a sec. But what I because I'm not a horse whisperer and I have no idea whatsoever about horses. But the beauty was, the horse at the end was putting her big head in my lap, was completely relaxed, and it was so touching. the horse was playing it. So I just jump here over to show you this. So I connected, there was a therapist working with horses, and so I connected a horse. So you see the horse is connected together with the owner, this lady behind. And this is the heart of this horse playing and getting coherent with the owner. And the magic of music is that, we talked about this last time, I think, is that you cannot escape it. Because when you're exposed to a vibration, you have just three options: either move, get coherent with the vibration, turn it off, or leave the room or leave the situation. And the beauty is, when I translate the heart frequency into light and sound, that you literally are thrown into a pool of your own vibration, or this from the other person. And so you can connect animals with humans, or animals with animals, of course. This I haven't tried yet, just with dogs and horses so far. And the beauty, last time when I connected the horse last week, when we humans start to think, our heart rate variability decreases. And when I connected the horse, because I don't know if a horse thinks or not, but really you can feel the moment the horse gets into the heart, the head, the variability decreased. So it's a very interesting thing that and as I said, the variability is very important. So interesting is really that the variability, heart rate variability, is not only to, how to say, determine the health status of the body, but I think it's the connector, at least the heart frequency, all this many frequencies we probably don't measure yet. And this is actually the communicator between the people, between us humans and all surrounding. This is a mother nursing the baby, both hearts connected, both hearts translated to sound, both to the mother plays viola, daughter plays the violin, and you can literally hear how they start to interact. And this is the amazing thing. So this is the work I'm doing today. This is the translation of the heart frequency into loud, light, and sound. And yeah, and beside this, of course, we can examine the whole heart rate variability. And this is, how to say, this is amazing, because you asked before the impacts on our variability. And I want to show you another, how to say, another image.
Yeah.
So this is the heart rate variability of a lady. This is about 40 years old lady, and I just scroll through the time. You see sympathetic stress level, all these parameters. Not so important now to go so much into detail, but you see the heart is more or less closed, and she was listening to her own heart and her own sound. You see how close she is there. Completely closed means that the heartbeats become more and more similar. So the more variable means that one heartbeat is long and the other is very short and the next is very long. So this means variability. So it's always changing very fast. You can compare it with a forest. If you go to a native forest, a rainforest, you have big and small trees, all kinds. It's a healthy, good forest. If you go to an agricultural forest where all the pine trees have the same size, it's a sick forest. You need just one beetle or one, how to say, disease in the whole forest and dies. And the same is in our heart rate variability. If it's always the same, we can hardly adapt to stress. And the interesting thing is, when we go into our mind, we focus, we bring something to the point, we materialize something. Of course, we have to think once in a while. But if we cannot stop thinking, if we stay always chattering mind in the evening, watching television, go to bed, have to digest all this nonsense, and then we train, and then fear. Fear is one of the biggest component of influencing the heart rate variability. If you're afraid, you try to protect yourself. And the heart tries to do the same. It's a protection mechanism. But in this state, you cannot heal. And the moment this lady let go, now it's already 29 minutes in her case. And suddenly the whole heart starts to open. You see this, how this has changed.
So the colors at the bottom, where it says 0.04, 0.15, 0.4, what exactly is that?
These are the frequency ranges. These are the frequency ranges we measure from 0 to 0.4 hertz. Yes, like you have the electromagnetic waves of the light in a very high frequency range. We hear between 20 and 20,000 hertz. And this range is a very low frequency between 0 and 0.4 hertz.
But the colors that you're showing
and the colors
are not connected to the wavelengths, though, right?
No, these are just colors chosen. The yellow one, it depends on the system. The yellow one reflects the parasympathetic state, the blue, the sympathetic, and the red, also the sympathetic, but it's distinguished because the red reflects more the hormonal state, the thermoregulation of the body, and the inflammatory state. The blue one is more this part of the sympathetic range, where you're active, where you mobilize energy, where you spend energy, where you discharge, you can say, your battery, and where you breathe in, where you think.
Yeah. So
and
sympathetic,
the yellow
parasympathetic,
one is
yeah.
where you relax, you breathe out, you digest, you regenerate, and all this. So these are the different players, but you can beautifully see how the parasympathetic at the end really gets high, the yellow one here, and how big the heart gets. So the moment we let go from our thinking, that's what all meditation is about.
Right.
But when I gave a lecture in Russia, when I was 33, they said, what you are doing is like a lie detector. Because many people came to me and they start to meditate, and I measure their variability, and it closes completely because they have an intention. They want to get, I don't know, in a spiritual state, or they want something. The moment you want something, it doesn't work. I always say in my lectures, if I say, dear Abhay, don't think of a, I don't know, purple elephant, don't think of this elephant, you start thinking of it. You know, of course, there's all this funny stuff. So the thing is, the moment we are 100% present, the heart gets open. And when the heart gets open, it can get coherent with the surrounding, Mother Earth, nature, and then healing can take place, whatever the healing is. So this is actually my main focus today, is to open the heart.
So just to elaborate one more time. So the idea is to open the heart, because once you start listening to your heart, right, and you start relaxing, you get into the parasympathetic side, more away from the sympathetic, and therein is the healing. That's really your point, right? That's how your system works. It's like, listen to yourself, because it's all in there.
Absolutely.
You know, there's a saying in Sanskrit which is aham brahmasmi, which is basically all the solutions and all the Brahmand stays within you. You know, so it's not beyond you. You know, and I think I really like the way your system actually is a self-help system that you know, once you kind of figure it out, that you can really get in tune with where you need to be, which is to have your heart singing, you know, and having those beautiful colors.
I think all the healing is within you, but also around you, because we are a product of nature. We are children of nature. So we always think we are, how to say, disconnected. It's me and the rest of the world. But we are babies or children from this planet. And the moment we really get coherent, and you can only get coherent when you are in a present state. And this is just, but the thing is that our mind, beautiful, can build the most amazing things, but the mind has the biggest problems to get in the present state. And there is where our senses come into the picture, because the moment our senses, smelling, touching, but the listening sense is for me the most talented one, because it's the one which can distinguish most frequencies. Much more. In our heat, we can hardly distinguish 40 to 50 degrees. But our ears, our ear scientists can distinguish 200,000 signals a second. So the ears is the best thing to get in this coherent state, and this is the listening. And yeah, and then it's of course my assumption is that the own frequency is the best one. That's why you are you and not the other person.
And you said a very important thing, that the healing is not just within you, but it's also around you. Then you had mentioned something about what's happening with 5G and the EM radiation that we are all exposed to. Can you tell us a little bit more about your studies on that?
Yeah, well, I'm now measuring, because I always take the heart as the measurement tool, because I want to see what happens to you. And of course, I make the water crystals, of course, and this is very interesting. But yeah, I do both. This is, but the 5G, what we are doing now, we try to use different materials like shungite or magnetate or silver lining or gold and different, to see how we, but also related, of course, to the water crystals, if you get harmonic pictures. But at the same time, we measure with different devices these EM vibrations and see how we can protect it. For example, Agnihotra is amazing good. Of course, this is, I don't know, we have been talking about Agnihotra last time, this fire, this ashes. And so I do now, I conduct research how we can, because the 5G is quite, how to say, is going to be quite a challenge for our body. So because it is so, how to say, strong, it has such a huge range. I mean, the 5G is wide and can be used as a weapon, and it can be used for communication. And this is, of course, how to say, I just want to see how we react on this. Yeah. So this is.
Yeah, all the best for that, because yeah, we all know are becoming slowly aware of the implications of 5G, not just faster connectivity, but what it means as a detrimental impact on your health. So please keep us posted on the work that you're doing on that, because that's a topic that a lot of our subscribers and friends have asked more information on. So as it unfolds, and also the work that you're doing with our next guest, which is Durea Karim, on biogeometry. That's also really fascinating, how biogeometry actually will impact the heart rate variability. What were your, I mean, between the horse owner and the horse, right? Was there a great amount of coherence at the end of a certain period of time? So is it really a period of time, or is it really something else that kind of dictates how and when the coherence may occur, especially with an animal, with a dog or a horse?
Well, what I can, of course, just explain the parameters I can measure. I think there is, of course, much more in the field, like the more morphogenic field or the akashic field, like how to say, Rupert Sheldrake was addressing, or Erwin Laszlo, or different people. It's strange. Of course, the physics, it's like this: matter needs time. So your heart is matter. It needs time to close, and it needs time to open. And this is like a little seed needs time to get a huge tree. To get in the present state, you don't need time. It's just there or it's not. And some people meditate 10 years and it does nothing happen, and some it just opens right away. This is, of course, so that's, of course, the biggest corruption in esoterics is time, because we compare matter with spirits, which is completely nonsense. It's like water crystals. They don't need time. They just appear. It's just, I don't have to influence the water 10 years because it happens or it doesn't happen. But because the H2O molecule actually moves in the speed of light. But how to say, if now this horse and this lady, I think they, of course, they start to get in this coherent state. They, how to say, it's like this pendulum. They get more and more in this dance. That's what happens. And this is, yeah, the body actually starts to react upon the field or the coherence which is established. and then the whole system
But
starts.
empirically, like just based on your experience so far, is this like a 10-minute or a 20-minute or a 30-minute? I know it's kind of a difficult way of assessing it.
It depends completely on the person. So we have some people who just in 10 minutes, their heart literally explodes and gets open. And we have people after 4 sessions, hardly nothing changes, because it's a talent. Mainly women are more talented than men, because they much more can go into their body. They at least know once a month that they have a body. We men are so much stuck in the head that that's why does the man get normally 10 years less old than the woman? I don't think because the man is biologically, how to say, weaker. I think the man has a big, how to say, disadvantage toward the woman, because he's much more
In the
mind stuck. It always is stuck. So we train our heart much more into the heart attack than a woman. Of course, nowadays women get heart attack too. But the question how long it takes. I don't know if I told you this. I had a gynecologist, a doctor here. He had already 3 heart attacks. His heart was completely closed, and I connected him to his own body sound, and he didn't open because his mind was chattering all the time. How is it working? Why is the light green? Why is the note like this? And I said, you have now 2 options. Either we discuss about soccer, or who knows more, or whatever, or you start to listen. And the German word for listen, it's a very interesting word, is aufhören. And aufhören means listen, but also ending. So the moment you listen, you end. That's the same word. It's very interesting, the German language. And I told him, don't listen to the sound. Listen to the silence between the sound, because the mind, the intellect, cannot comprehend silence. That's impossible. Silence is the death of the mind. And that's why silence is so beautiful. So I told him, don't listen and think, why is the violin playing this note and this color and so on. Listen, focus on the silence, because you cannot focus on silence. For the mind, it's nonsense. And he was really putting attention on silence, and his heart starts to open like a flower. It was so cool. It was really nice. And this is, it can go fast. But if I would argue with him and explain him why it's green and red and blue and why this sound is like this, he keeps on digesting everything in his mind. And so it can go pretty fast if you do a good work.
It's really interesting. What's the word again?
Aufhören.
H-E-U-R-E-N, is it? Aufhören?
A-U-F-H, and then hören, this is the O with 2 points, and U-R-E-N. Yes, aufhören.
Aufhören.
Yeah.
Got it.
It's a very interesting word. Yeah, that's very nice.
Well, on that note, Rasmus, thank you for a wonderful talk again today. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, your passion for your subject, and congratulations on how you're able to help so many people really find their heart, and to expand their heart and to live in the heart and to, and I think in many ways that's your contribution to world peace, that the more we live in our heart, the less we will do silly things. So thank you again for being on our show. I always enjoyed having you here, and we hope to see you again in the future. Our greetings to your wonderful country of Austria, and to your family, and see you soon.
Thank you. Oh, hi. Have a great day. Thank you. Thank you.
And to